Welcome and good morning. My name is Stephen Goldsmith. I'm a professor of government at Harvard, and I'm honored to be the moderator of this panel. We're going to start with a series of brief introductions and then have a discussion among the panel looking at the issues of innovation and open data. On my far right, on your left, is Mayor Gaviria from Medellin, Colombia. Next to him is the Chief Technology Officer for the City of New York, a new job, Minerva Tantoco, right? All right. Next to her is let's see, I get these in the right order, Mark Kleinman, who has been involved with the City of London's innovation in the use of technology and in urban environments. And next to him is Rob Bernard, in charge of smart cities and sustainability for Microsoft. And to my immediate right and your left is from Schneider Electric, Charbel Aoun. So I come from a world of mayoral politics, so we're going to start with the mayor, and then the rest of us will criticize what you've said as if we were constituents. Right. Mayor, please begin.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Creo que vamos a hablar desde aquí todos. Un saludo muy cordial al moderador y a los compañeros de este panel. Y quisiera enfocar pues los aspectos e ideas iniciales que quiero plantear acerca de cómo en Medellín vemos como fundamental la base para el gobierno abierto en fundamentalmente el ejercicio de participación ciudadana. Yo tuve la oportunidad de ser gobernador del departamento de Antioquia, del cual Medellín es capital, hace 10 años, y anterior a ello habíamos avanzado en la creación de un movimiento político, de un movimiento que llamamos ético-político, que tiene como bases el buen gobierno y la sociedad participante. Entonces quiero remontarme a ese aspecto porque para uno hablar de innovación abierta, de gobierno abierto, pues tiene que tener como base fundamental la convicción de gobierno de que la sociedad participante es uno de los dos fundamentales pilares. Pero ello lo hemos llevado de alguna manera al gobierno a través de diferentes herramientas, no fundamental ni excluyentemente de herramientas tecnológicas, sino herramientas de concepción de gobierno. Una de estas herramientas es la que denominamos las jornadas de vida y equidad. Y esas jornadas de vida y equidad son ejercicios en los cuales vamos al territorio y en cada una de las comunas o corregimientos de Medellín realizamos una jornada prácticamente de un día entero en la cual en forma participativa los ciudadanos de ese territorio definen la ejecución de 10 proyectos, escogen 5 proyectos para la inversión en su territorio. Pero adicionalmente hemos avanzado en la creación de una herramienta ya de más actualidad tecnológica, que es la herramienta Mi Medellín, una herramienta de innovación abierta y de co-creación en la que hoy, que es, digamos, líder en nuestro país, entre los municipios de nuestro país, con la cual ya tenemos 11.500 inscritos a los cuales le planteamos periódicamente los principales problemas, los principales retos de nuestra ciudad Medellín, para que a través de esa herramienta de Mi Medellín, de gobierno y de co-creación, puedan ellos contribuir a la solución con su conocimiento de los problemas de la ciudad. Y pues, por último, quisiera compartir el ejercicio de lo que nosotros denominamos urbanismo pedagógico. Y este urbanismo pedagógico no es más que la participación de los ciudadanos en los territorios en donde vamos a realizar determinada intervención, fundamentalmente de desarrollo urbano, en el diseño y en la discusión del diseño de esa intervención y posteriormente en la veeduría a su ejecución y en su posterior operación y mantenimiento. O sea, uno de los 5 principios de nuestro gobierno, que son innovación, transparencia, no violencia y resiliencia, y el quinto es participación ciudadana. Esa es para nosotros la base de un gobierno abierto y de un gobierno innovador.
Thank you, Mayor. Just before we go to Minerva, and by the way, to your right will be the Deputy Mayor of Barcelona who will join us briefly. But tell the audience just tell the audience just briefly, if you would, did the city develop the app, the My Medellin app, and what types of things can a citizen, those 8,000 residents, what types of things can they do on that app?
Excuse me.
Haven't got the translation on here. I'll tell you what.
No, it's not working.
Yeah, nor is my Spanish working actually either. So
let me say, if
this is.
If you talk slowly, maybe I can catch. Sí, acerca de los ejercicios de Open Data, nosotros hemos avanzado, por ejemplo, en una aplicación que se llama Huecos Med. Esta es una aplicación para invitar a los ciudadanos que en cualquier parte de la ciudad ven que en alguna de las infraestructuras viales tenemos un hueco o un problema de mantenimiento, a través de los teléfonos inteligentes y en forma inmediata pueden reportar con una fotografía el hueco en la ciudad e inmediatamente con esa fotografía la Secretaría de Infraestructura tiene la ubicación específica y exacta de dónde está el hueco, y el compromiso es que en menos de 2 días ese hueco estará reparado. Esta herramienta ha contribuido enormemente a que no solo la malla vial de la ciudad esté en excelentes condiciones, sino que adicionalmente los ciudadanos tengan cada vez un compromiso mayor de participación y de veeduría, no solo en ese aspecto, sino en otros.
Thank you very much. And Minerva, I know you're going to introduce some of the dramatic work that Mayor de Blasio is doing, but when you finish that, could you just comment, if you would, briefly on the New York City new 311 envisions a personalization, if you will, a CRM engine in it that maybe takes what the mayor mentioned and takes it maybe one step further. So maybe you could talk about both of those, please.
Sure, I can close with that. Great. So, hello, I'm Minerva Tantoco, and I am the first ever Chief Technology Officer for New York City. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what that role is. It's relatively new to government, so I thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit about that in the context of governance and innovation. So it's interesting to talk about governance, about New York City, which is famously ungovernable. It is a huge place. And, the role of CTO is very much a part of Mayor de Blasio's plan around innovation. And the appointment of it is a critical, bold step that I think that the mayor has taken towards making New York the most tech-friendly and innovative city in the world. So there's a natural tension between governance on the one hand and innovation on the other. It presents a challenge, and those challenges are magnified in such a big place. Just to give you an idea, New York City has over 60 agencies running the city, And one of them, just one of them, the Department of Education, has 1 million school children in it. So you can imagine what a challenge that is. Outside government, there's 8 million people. And there's many companies and thousands of startups already starting in the startup companies in the city. And each one of these agencies, the Economic Development Corporation, the Health and Hospitals Corporations, will on their own be a huge corporation by themselves. And there are 61 of these. So why a CTO? Why Chief Technology Officer? Why now? I think that more than ever, cities need to have a technology plan. They need to have a common vision for where is all this innovation going, what is it for, and a roadmap to get there. And this is a role of a chief technology officer to do that. I've been a CTO for 17 years. I've been in technology for 30 years, the last 10 years in financial services. I'm new to government. I've been in it about 2 months now. And I can see so many places where there's an opportunity to apply the practices and approaches of strategic planning to the technology that runs and permeates the cities of the world. I'll give you a quick illustration here. For the last 2 years, I was based in Hong Kong, and I started a new sport called dragon boats. I don't know if some of you are familiar with this. It's a race, it's a boat race where there's about 18 to 20 people, usually men, in the boat. And I joined the men's team, my men's corporate team, and been racing there. And one of the things that you do, everyone on the team is responsible for being in the best possible shape that they can, practice as much as possible, be as strong as fast as they can be. The coach decides how we will race. So we'll have 5 quick strokes, another 10 very hard, long, and deep, and then another 70 or so in a slow chug pace, and then towards the end of the finish line, we have a very fast 20, 30 strokes until you cross the finish line. This, to me, is a perfect example of a strategy. Everyone on the boat knows the strategy, they follow the pace, and even if you're the strongest paddler on the boat, if you're not paddling with the others, you are slowing the boat down. If there is no strategy, everyone is paddling at different rates, and quite often the boat will capsize. So to me, just to illustrate the concept of the importance of a technology strategy where every one of the agencies is really paddling as hard as they can, doing the best that they possibly can, but having that plan and a goal together makes sure that everyone is going to reach the end of their vision. So I think just in closing, the city of New York really does focus on the importance of technology in everyday life. Our mission is to make the city as equal as possible across all of our citizens, and we feel the power of technology to do good and not just having good technology.
Thanks. Mark, I know you're instrumental in the Smart London, and we want you to kind of explain that. Also, maybe we could begin to connect maybe an explicit example of how you are using residents and citizens to help you drive innovation. When do they help you, and when is it just noise that gets in your way? How do you discern the difference?
Okay, thank you. And just to pick up also on a couple of things Minerva said, all cities copy from each other. I think great cities steal unashamedly. And we've looked at the New York City Digital Roadmap, we looked at the previous mayor's Applied Science Initiative, and we're now looking at the appointment of a chief technology officer and looking at those as really interesting innovations within government. Because government can innovate as well, Some people in this room may find that hard to believe, but it can happen. It's not easy. The two things I really want to talk about in these opening remarks are, as the chairman has referred to, the Mayor's Smart London Plan and also the Mayor's infrastructure plan for London to 2050. The Smart London Plan, when we began to think about London as a smart city and what we needed to do, I think the first thing we realized inside City Hall was that we simply did not know nearly enough about it. And so what the Mayor did was set up an advisory board called the Smart London Board, which brings together people from industry, from the world-class universities and the world-class science base we have in London, from the sector itself, both from corporates and from startups and SMEs, under the chairmanship of a professor from Imperial College to advise the Mayor on where we should be going. And we published earlier this year a Smart London Plan, which you can find on our website, which in a way is our version of the digital roadmap. Where do we want to be over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Now, in parallel with that, the Mayor has also published an infrastructure plan for London to 2050. And as far as we're aware, this is the first time in London we have actually looked over a nearly 40-year time horizon. And we've also looked across the piece at infrastructure. Previously, both within London and in the UK generally, we tend within government to put these different issues in silos. We look at housing, or we look at energy, or we look at water, and it's a different group of people having separate conversations. In the infrastructure plan, we've looked at all those things together over the period to 2050. Housing, transport, mobility, water, energy, waste, and so on. We have even tried to quantify how much we will need to spend between now and 2050 in order to meet the infrastructure needs of our growing population. I was at an event similar to this where Deputy Mayor Isabel Dedring was speaking, and she was asked by an audience member, "Can you really quantify that figure? How accurate is it?" And the Deputy Mayor replied she was confident that figure was accurate, pause, to the nearest trillion. And that is the scale of number that we're talking about. London is growing by 100,000 people every year, about 32,000 jobs. That is a rate of increase which is unprecedented in our history since the middle of the 19th century. We have to support that growth in a way which is, to use the word, much smarter. The city grew this way in the Victorian era, and that was an era of massive investment in infrastructure. It was also accompanied by poverty and a decline in the quality of life. We cannot do it that way again, and that is why our infrastructure needs and our smart ambitions come together. The final point, and this is the very first section of the Mayor's Smart London Plan, we know we cannot do this to people, we have to do it with people. In other words, we have to begin and carry on a conversation with our residents about what smart means to them. And if we, as officers or as elected politicians, if we cannot explain that to people in a way which relates to their chances of getting a job, the chances of their children getting a job, their tax bills being kept down, or the quality of services that they receive going up, if we can't explain it in one of these ways, then we are not going to be able to proceed. So dialogue with citizens, in the plan we call it putting Londoners at the core, is absolutely central to what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I want to call on Rob because obviously Microsoft has this huge footprint. But let me just ask a follow-up question for you. So when I think of London, right, I think of congestion pricing. And if you think about gathering information from citizens, you gather information from the Internet of Things as well as you do from this kind of app, social media. And so how do you think about, let's say you gather information from a group of citizens who think the way you're pricing your congestion is wrong, right? So how do you bring together the social media data from the Internet of Things to make those decisions?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I think we have a number of innovative projects, But by and large, the way we communicate with citizens is still a very traditional government-citizen dialogue. We have a few innovations. So, for example, we have a website called Talk London, where essentially we have a representative panel of Londoners whom we consult regularly on issues and see how opinion is moving. The mayor regularly does Twitter sessions where people can just ask questions over Twitter in an exactly parallel way to the public meetings he has in different parts of London. But we think there's a whole load more that we can do. We just don't know quite how to go about it. So I would emphasize that we are, at the moment, we are looking at relatively small scale and neighborhood projects because we feel we want to test out some of these ideas. We try to develop projects which are scalable so we can take them to scale quickly. But first of all, we need to explain to our partners, both in business and in terms of our citizens, why this matters to their lives.
So thanks very much. Rob, one of the things that we've noticed internationally that you're in the center of is that cities are leaders in sustainability. And I work for Mayor Bloomberg, Mayor de Blasio, the other mayors that are up here. So how does Microsoft, your title is an interesting one because you have this technology title and the sustainability title. Why are those together and what do you see in cities?
So I think it's a great question. Just to look at the intersection of cities and sustainability, our company a few months ago made the decision that in order to solve sustainability problems at scale, you have to do it in the context of cities. I mean, 80% of the world's energy is consumed and used in cities around the world. So if you're going to go after how do we actually create a cleaner economy with better energy, you've got to do that in the context of cities. And when you look across many, but certainly not all, of the challenges that cities have, water scarcity, certainly energy, clean energy, air pollution in many places, you've got to solve those components in the context of the city. So the Venn diagram for these is pretty significant. And we also looked at what is the infrastructure that we can bring to solve both of these problems in a similar way. And for us, we talk about open innovation here and what's happening. It's how do you create an ecosystem of both sort of global partners that we have around the world and also local partners to create local software economies to solve problems that are being dealt with, whether it's sustainability or cities, in each city around the world. I mean, it's interesting that the mayor sort of talked about solution that they've been writing in their city, and then 311 in New York City. That's actually a good example of where there's a bunch of innovation. Microsoft happens to be involved in these projects, where we say, okay, if we're doing something around, let's say, safety of citizens, that doesn't apply just to New York. So how do we learn, innovate through a partner in a city, and then replicate that in every city who has a similar problem? And sometimes you can take the same solution and push it everywhere, right? And it's relevant. In other cases, people say, no, I need a local partner to really understand because either culturally or technically or because of my governance model, which is different than, let's say, a New York or London, we've got to actually bring all of this together. So for us, sustainability and cities, it's all about creating this massive ecosystem of partners at both a global level and a local level to drive innovation at scale. Because the scale of these problems, sustainability and city challenges, is unprecedented. So the urgency, I think, which not only we feel, but I would argue many feel, requires this to be done rather quickly and simultaneously in multiple places around the world. And one of the great things, I've been doing this now for 7 years, is that the ability to see innovation happening in a small little pocket in some small city and say, wow, what if we actually expanded that out and really work with these partners to say, wow, that's a really transformative potential scenario. How do we apply that at a worldwide basis? And that's where we think sort of this ecosystem can really be leveraged up.
Good. Thanks. I have many more questions for you, but I'll get to Charbel. So just taking up on this theme, you're an international company as well. What do you see that you're able to transfer from one of your public customers to another public customer? How do you manage innovation across those cities?
It's a very interesting question. I mean, the topic of this session is open governance and open innovation. And if we look at the topic, open government is about giving power to the people. Have been around for years for transparency purposes. But it did not necessarily yield innovation, yet cities can innovate, I agree. And the reason, if you look at the reason why, because data are everywhere in cities, but are they in a usable way for the community to innovate? And that's the big question. I'm going to use a small example. We ran an initiative in Barcelona called Apaton. We looked at their app store, and they have a lot of innovation around mobility and buses and so on, but they don't have anything around energy. So we joined forces with Microsoft and the Open Data in Barcelona, and we said we're going to put a ready-made set of data out for the community and see what we get. Within 15 days, we had 55 applicants, ranging from age of 18 to 55, and they have a couple of months to come with their presentation. And the ideas they came with are very interesting. They range from assessing the value of renewable energy on the roof building, all the way to the public voting on the heating and cooling experience in public spaces, and in between, a whole range of ideas. My point is trying to say is data is everywhere. How do cities help put the data in a data usable format? It's funny enough, what I mean is we don't want them on sheets and on a map. We need them in an electronic format, which means putting a data systems in place. You talked about the wide range of data in the silos, and this is validating it. And then cities has to invest in aggregation platform. What we are seeing is cities that are putting forward this investment, innovation is happening. It does not mean it's not happening somewhere else, but it's not scalable somewhere else. It's a hard road. It's a hard, steep, uphill walk, and they have to do a lot of efforts to do. The second one is we focus on open data. But when you bring in the private sector in that possesses a lot of data that is valuable, it gets complicating. Because we have the tendency to hold our cards close to our chest, because data is power, is knowledge, is money. Now, if you want to put it out in the open, it brings a new collaboration model, a new way of working together, not only among companies like us, but between companies and cities. And that is a challenge by itself. So, and another example is what we're doing in Barcelona in Center of Excellence, right? Where we're bringing a lot of companies, small, medium, large, international scale, and they're working with the local communities, NGO, university, small, medium size, to solve these problems because we don't know how to proceed. As simple as we didn't have to do that before because we were solving problems in silos. Now, if you want to work across, we have to learn because I never had to sit down on the table with 6 departments and 6 different types of suppliers and create a common solution. And this is where things are happening. Innovation is happening, but we need to enable it. We need to create the environment that will allow it to happen. And that's a job of a city, absolutely, but equally is the job of companies like us.
So, thanks. Let me go back to our 2 public officials at the end of the line here. Maybe start with Minerva and then ask the mayor for a comment. So, as you know, I've just finished this book, Responsive Cities. I have case studies in New York City and Boston, and it was the kind of earlier days of predictive analytics and data analytics centers. And what folks struggle with, I think, is that how does data help the underserved be served better? How do we address inequity through open data? How do we give voice to those who are underserved through social media? So why don't you talk a little bit about how, I know Mayor de Blasio has equity as a primary issue. Why don't you talk just a little bit about how you think about technologies addressing equity, and then I'd ask the mayor to respond to your comments.
Sure. So thank you. Just two main points to respond to that as far as how New York City and Mayor de Blasio are doing that. One, a very important piece of the inequality is in the tech divide itself. You know, not everyone in a city has technology, so the danger in kind of doing all electronic, apply for a job, and do your homework. If your family cannot afford, a high-priced broadband access, then you're even further behind. And so a big component of our technology strategy is to look for ways to provide broadband access for all, either affordable broadband or free. And I think also that fits into giving everyone a voice. Innovation can come from anywhere. And so this concept of open governance and open innovation really says that it's not really the government to decide what is innovation, right? That's going to be decided by everyone else. I think the government creates, as you say, the environment or the space in which innovation can happen. And one of the ways that we did that combined those two things, actually, was we put out a request for proposals that came from all over the city. What should we do with our phone booths? And call boxes, I guess you would call them in London. And so, we got a lot of fantastic ideas. And what we did then was we took some of those key ideas, a place to charge your phone, make it a Wi-Fi access point, make it an interactive display, and bake that into the request for proposals. And just this past Monday, we chose the winner of that proposal. And we hope that it will be approved by the various city boards, and if it is approved, it will turn all between 6,000 and 10,000 phone booths into wireless hotspots. If it goes through, it will be the largest and fastest free municipal Wi-Fi system in the world. At up to 1 gigabit speeds, and it will take, because the phone booths are all over the city, it will take free Wi-Fi to small businesses, to all the outer boroughs, and it will also provide for free phone calls from the phones themselves, so they can't be called pay phones anymore. There'll be free phones for everyone as well. So I think that combination of both not assuming that the government knows what innovation is, and also providing that access to everyone is two of the key components for Mayor de Blasio's.
Good. Thanks. Mayor, how do you address that issue?
Pues, Stephen, me parece que la pregunta que le has hecho a Minerva encaja completamente en la